Some stories remind us that women don't need to be born rich to be exceptional. Pull up a chair and let's talk about Empress Theodora of Byzantium. Theodora is probably born in the late 400s CE. She was the daughter of a gamekeeper for the local hippodrome and Colosseum. The Roman historian Procopius, who hated her by the way, claimed that Theodora was both an actress and a sex worker. While there's no actual evidence to prove that she was in fact a sex worker, so what if she was? Anyway, at some point in her 20s, she meets the future Emperor Justinian I. Imperial law bars noblemen from marrying actresses, but Justinian, breaking with tradition, has the law changed, and they get married around 525 CE. 4 years later, Justinian's uncle would die, and he would become Emperor Justinian I, and Theodora would become Empress. Theodora is not a background figure. Theodora hosts her own court, influences appointments, and really goes out of her way to improve the lives of the women living in the empire. Procopius, who we've already mentioned kind of hated her, admits that many officials fear her more than they fear Justinian, because she wasn't sitting around doing nothing. Very obviously inspired by his wife, Justinian passes a bevy of laws that other emperors would never. For instance, banning forced sex work, funding escape routes and safe houses for women escaping this type of lifestyle, adjusting marriage and property rules for women, allowing them secure dowries, inheritance rights, and property rights. While it's important to note that these laws don't necessarily create equality, they were still landmark laws for any part of the Roman Empire. She would also extend her power to protect Christian minorities, preventing many arrests, exile, and executions from Yevsite bishops and church leaders. And not for nothing, remember that the plague of Justinian strikes in 541 to 542 CE, the very first pandemic recorded in Europe caused by bubonic plague. We talked about this in another video, but this plague would take the lives of millions. Justinian himself would fall ill, leaving Theodora to expertly manage the crisis and also keep the government in order. Even though Justinian survives the plague, in 532 CE, the Nika riots would strike Constantinople. Tens of thousands of rioters would take to the streets shouting Nika, Nika, which means conquer. Imperial troops lose control, and Justinian prepares to flee. But Theodora convinces him to stay and fight. Someone says, "What if we're all killed?" And she said, "Purple is a fine shroud." If she must die, she says, she will die as an empress. Justinian sticks it out, his soldiers return order to the streets, and the Nika rebellion is no more. Theodora would eventually die in 548 CE. Justinian would outlive her by almost 20 years, and he never remarried, which is very unusual for a ruler of that time period. He has her buried in the Church of the Holy Apostles in Constantinople, and in later Eastern traditions, Theodora is venerated as a saint. Whatever you might think of her, here was a woman from the margins who would rise to the rank of empress, help write just laws that protect women, stood her ground in a riot that nearly toppled the empire, governed extremely well through one of the worst pandemics in history, and is now honored as Saint Theodora in many parts of the Christian world. And to all that I say, not bad for a girl from the wrong side of the tracks.